Today our topic is methods and differences in eradicating afflictions among esoteric, exoteric, and Hinayana Buddhist teachings. The Buddha said, "When someone hits me, I shall not hit back." Is this a negative attitude towards dealing with things? If someone hits me with a lethal weapon, such as an axe, a knife, a sword, or a pistol, should I also be hit? If someone uses a lethal weapon to hit me and my family, should I also advise my family members to be beaten like myself? If I know that the person who attacks me and others uses lethal weapons or methods that will cause a large number of deaths and injuries, for example, he uses chemical weapons or poisons, should I also advise myself and others to accept these attacks? When retribution occurs, and according to the first step of the mind-cultivating procedure, accepting a deep belief in cause and effect, does it mean that you must do nothing and just endure it silently? If you lose control of your emotions while enduring it silently, does it mean that you have failed in the cultivation of your mind and the Dharma practice? When you lose control of your emotions, you feel guilty in your heart. Is this wrong in the process of mind cultivation and Dharma practice? How to use the mind cultivating procedure and the 10 beliefs to solve the problem of I shouldn't hit back when someone hits me. What are the techniques involved? If certain steps are deviated, will the result be a failure? The topic we are talking about today is the methods and differences between esoteric, exoteric, and Hinayana Buddhist teachings. What are the key issues of this episode? The Buddha once said, "If someone hits me, I should not hit back." Is this a very negative attitude towards dealing with things? If someone hits me with a lethal weapon, such as an axe, a knife, a sword, or a pistol, should I also be hit? If someone uses a lethal weapon to hit me and my family, should I also advise my family to accept being beaten like me? If I know that the person who attacks me and others uses lethal weapons or methods that will cause a large number of casualties, for example, he uses chemical weapons or poisons to kill me and many other people, should I also convince myself and all others to accept these attacks? When the retribution occurs, according to the first step of the mind-cultivating procedure. The first step of the mind-cultivating procedure that has been taught from episodes 20 to 38 of our Compassion series, we must accept a deep belief in cause and effect. Does this kind of acceptance mean doing nothing and just enduring it silently? If I lose control of my emotions while enduring it silently, because facing such a huge disaster would affect my family, relatives and friends, and even a large number of sentient beings, will this affect my mood and cause me to lose control of my emotions? Does it mean that it is a failure of the mind cultivation and the Dharma practice? When you lose control of your emotions, you feel guilty. Is this wrong in the process of mind cultivation and Dharma practice? How to use the mind-cultivating procedure and the 10 beliefs to solve the problem of someone hits me, I shouldn't hit back. What are the techniques involved? If certain steps are deviated, will the result be a failure? Okay, let's take a look at this diagram. According to the practice process of Mahayana Buddhism, we have to go through 52 steps, that is, 52 levels, before we can become a Buddha. We call it the 5 paths and 10 levels. For a detailed explanation, please refer to the video entitled Classification in Dharma Practice. Essence of Emptiness, available from the Dudjom Buddhist Association TV channel on YouTube. If you start from the 10 beliefs of the level without doubts, that is, the 10 kinds of faith, and practice until the completion of the 4 preliminary practices, we need an Asamkhya Kalpa. How long is it? That is equal to 10 to the 51st power of the time the universe experiences formation, existence, destruction, and emptiness. That is a long, long time. If we practice from Bodhisattva with initial resolute vows to the 7th level Bodhisattva, it will take another Asamkhya Kalpa. Then it will take one more Asamkhya Kalpa to cultivate from the 8th level to the 10th level. We will have yet to become a Buddha. We still have to go through 10.5 level, until the 11th level, the complete enlightenment, before we can achieve it and become a Buddha. Our Three Samkhya Kalpa, a very long time. But the esoteric Buddhism claims that one can become a Buddha through the current body in the present lifetime. What is the theory behind this? It turns out that in Mahayana Buddhism, the Dharma practice is based on the cause and planting causes. So the slightest difference is 1,000 miles wrong. It really needs to take a long time to practice and cannot get a result. The esoteric Buddhists, on the other hand, practice on the fruit, that is, the result. What is the result? The result is the awareness. Because if you successfully cultivate to become a Buddha, it is called the perfect enlightenment. If you regain 100% of the perfect enlightenment, it is called becoming a Buddha. The esoteric Buddhism starts its practice at the awareness, cultivating on the result, instead of planting virtuous causes, cultivating on the cause. That is quite a difference. In other words, if you follow the esoteric Buddhist practice, you must learn to transform the mind into wisdom at the beginning. To transform your mind into wisdom is to train to develop the 5 kinds of wisdom. And the main direction of Dharma practice is to enhance the awareness. Only then can one become a Buddha, through the current body in the present lifetime. Of course, there are many other techniques. Now I am only giving you the general direction. There are many details which are very important. Because those details are the key to whether you can become a Buddha. In other words, it applies to us wanting to become a Buddha, reaching a Buddha's pure land, or escaping from reincarnation if the goals are not that high. In fact, it is the same principle. If you are practicing the Dharma on the cause, you will not succeed even if you cultivate for a long time. You must practice on the result to make it faster. That is, when we start to cultivate the 10 beliefs of the level without doubts, we must already cultivate linking to our result, that is, the awareness. Connect it to practice the Dharma. These elements must be present from the beginning. What are the 10 faiths, the 10 kinds of faith? According to the names of sages and holies, the upper volume of the Sutra of the Garland of a Bodhisattva's primary karmas, first, you must have the faith, second, the remembrance. Third, the diligence, 4, the wisdom, 5, the meditational concentration, 6, the non-retrogression. The 7th is the dedication of merits. The 8th is the protection of the Dharma. The 9th is the precepts and the 10th is the aspiration. You can refer to the 30th and 31st episodes of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series for their basic explanations. Now, when we start the Dharma practice, we must connect the 10 beliefs with their awareness. We must remember that this is the cause. Our cultivation of these 10 kinds of faith is planting the cause. However, this cause must be connected with the result. That is, it is only useful if it is connected with their awareness. If the 10 beliefs have no relationship with the awareness will not be developed no matter how you practice. This is a cause and effect relationship. In other words, you will not be able to succeed in cultivation for a long time. How can we develop the awareness? And how can we connect these 10 beliefs to develop the awareness? It turns out that we must use our mind training and Dharma practice methods. We have been teaching that the first step you must have is to apply the mind cultivating procedure. Secondly, you must work with Diamond Sutra's oral pith instruction, not to abide in any notions. Thirdly, there is another more important, comprehensive and balanced oral pith instruction, not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness. Only then can the 5 wisdoms be developed. This is because you have developed the mind, which is the awareness. Only when awareness is developed can the 5 kinds of wisdom be developed. Then working with emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, we are likely to succeed. In fact, we have already started to explain this method of developing the awareness from episode 20 of the Compassion series. However, only some structures have been given and the details have not been taught. These details will be taught from this session. In these details, you will learn how to use these methods in daily life. Please refer to our Dudgeon Buddhist Association TV channel on YouTube. Okay. I should use real cases and explain them so that you can absorb them more easily, right? The current case is like this. My disciple wrote a letter asking for repentance. He said, due to the current pandemic in the UK, my daughter was trapped alone in the UK and could not come back. The flight ticket she booked back to Hong Kong was also cancelled. At that time, I was struggling with whether I should let my daughter stay in the UK or go to the United States to live with my brother for 2 weeks of quarantine and then fly back to Hong Kong. Or something else. Not knowing what to choose, my wife and I finally went to Wong Tai Sin Temple to ask for a fortune to seek direction. I felt very uncomfortable at the time, because I knew that after taking refuge, I should not worship other religions or ask for fortune-telling. My fault was that I did not firmly believe in cause and effect. My daughter also understood the situation and accepted to stay in the UK. My mother also suggested staying still for the fear of being easily infected on the plane. It's just because I longed for a family reunion, and I hoped that asking for divination would give me the strength to make a selfish choice. Because I didn't believe deeply in cause and effect, my actions were just to satisfy my desire to reunite my family. If I believed deeply in cause and effect, I would have understood that this separation and my daughter's staying in the UK to face the pandemic alone have been an occurrence of retribution and a cause and effect. Therefore, I should not have been greedy and wanted her to risk returning to Hong Kong, but calmly find a way to stay safely in the UK. My daughter has now settled down with a host family, which proves that I was wrong to ask for fortune-telling. I must release my awareness, not to be blinded by greed, believe deeply in cause and effect, and develop the 5 wisdoms. Regarding his first confession, a detailed analysis was given in episodes 37 and 38 of the Compassion series, and how to link to the 10 beliefs and the mind-cultivating procedure was taught. For details, you can watch them again on YouTube. His second question is what we will focus on today. He said, due to the pandemic, my wife and I are at home every day. Since 2 great masters led me to the path of Buddhism, my temper has improved significantly. But when faced with my wife's constant scolding, my mood sometimes becomes a little bit rebound. All my faults stem from my failure to believe in cause and effect, and I should not have become angry at my wife's complaints and scoldings. Being able to become a married couple in this life is due to cause and effect. I shouldn't be annoyed by her nagging, complaining, and scolding. I should have a peaceful mood and consider my wife's position, be considerate, tolerant, and support her. Even walking away temporarily is better than getting into an emotional fight. I remember listening to one of the great masters' lectures about the 4 dharmas of Sramana on YouTube. I must start with my wife so that when others scold me, I will not retaliate. As for the third question, he said, finally, both root masters, I don't know why, sometimes when I see pictures of bodhisattvas, I feel disrespectful. I'm very upset, because for some reason I have bad thoughts, such as the appearance of a certain bodhisattva has so many faces and heads, it's so scary, why is it so ugly, etc. Sometimes I feel that disrespectful thoughts start to appear, and I immediately turn my mind away or think about something else. But I really don't know why, because as long as I'm not preparing to recite mantras or do my daily homework, these thoughts will not appear. It's as if my subconscious doesn't want me to practice the Dharma. I feel very upset and worried. I don't know what to do. I beg the Great Master for guidance. I fear that by doing so would continue to sow evil causes and lead to my downfall. I promised him that I would not reveal his name here. In fact, I have answered his third question. You can rewatch Explanation of an After-Death Case Seeing Scenes Described by the Tibetan Book of the Dead, available from Dudjom Buddhist Association TV channel on YouTube. I have explained it in this video. Why does this phenomenon occur? This is because he does not understand the natural operation of the spiritual world, nor does he understand the practical rescue methods of the spiritual world. He only looks at the surface and has doubts. This is a normal phenomenon. After understanding it, he will not have these doubts again. He will even understand that vicious, Dharma protectors and deities are of great help to sentient beings. It turns out that their appearances are of great importance. I would be worried if they do not show up. If you read our Explanation of an After-Death Case Seeing Scenes Described by the Tibetan Book of the Dead and understand the truth, you will be able to untie this knot in your mind. And this phenomenon will not occur. The problem lies in his second question. Today's session will focus on solving his second question. In his letter, he mentions the 4 dharmas of Sramana. What are the 4 dharmas of Sramana? These are taught by Buddha Shakyamuni. Firstly, when someone hits me, I do not fight back. Secondly, when others scold me, I do not retaliate. Thirdly, when others hate me, I do not hate them. Fourthly, when others accuse me of my faults, I do not accuse them of their faults. This is the 4 dharmas of Sramana. Okay. Let's take a look. When someone hits me, I do not hit back. How should we understand this sentence? What will happen if someone hits me and I hit him back? This will result in being unable to repay the previous evil causes and so more new ones. In other words, under the law of causes and effects, I did plant some evil causes in the past. Otherwise, he would not hit me without any reason. There must be a reason. If it is not an old cause, then it must be the addition of a new cause, or the old cause plus some new causes and conditions in the current situation. So the phenomenon of others hitting me occurs. If he hits me, of course I will hit him back. This is what most people do, right? What are the causal effects of this? This will become your past evil causes plus more new evil causes now, because you hit him again. If you hit him back, it will be a new cause. In other words, this phenomenon occurs when someone hits you and you hit him back. Secondly, if you hit someone, you must be in a mood and have emotions. You have a mind, right? Your mind turns out to set a rule. Whenever someone hits me, I must fight back. Then, when I hit him, I will be furious. My mood will be agitated, bad, and vicious. The more I hit him, the harder I hit him. If this is the case, then the new evil cause planted will increase exponentially. If this continues, it will further worsen one's mind and emotions. Likewise, it will also worsen the other parties. In other words, you are harming yourself and others. What will be your retribution? This depends on firstly if you hit others in return. Secondly, it depends on your mood and emotions when you hit someone. Extra points will be added. As for how many points to be added, it depends on how vicious you are and how bad your emotions are. These will be added up. This is called the extra points of mood and emotions. Thirdly, if you hit him with greater force and the damage is greater than when this person hit you, the evil causes you have planted will increase exponentially. Why does it keep rising? It is because you hit him very hard and hit him many times more. In other words, it is not that if you hit him hard one more point, you will get one more point of retribution. It is that if you hit him hard one more point, your evil karma may increase exponentially. In the future, your evil karma will increase exponentially and the retribution may be 10 points of a very cruel beating. This is how things will go. Therefore, the rapid increase of your retribution will be determined according to the degree of cruelty you hit the other party. And the speed of receiving retribution will also be accelerated accordingly. These are two things. First, the intensity of the retribution, the extent of the retribution, and the speed of your retribution are related to how harshly you hit someone back. This is called strength and degree of damage. In other words, what does old hatred plus new hatred equal? It is the cause of hell, or the cause of the three lower realms. In fact, usually the evil causes you planted in your past life will not cause you to fall into the three lower realms or hell. So you can still be a human being now and be quite happy in the three upper realms. However, when certain old evil causes are triggered, it really needs to see if you have ever learned Buddhism. Do you know how to respond? If you do not know how to respond, your mind is poor, and your habit is also bad, then you will fight back. It turns out that when you fight back, you arouse your mind and emotions and agitate the other person. He will also fight back, and everyone will fight. Maybe when you are unable to beat him, you will grab the knife, and he will get a gun, the fight will become more violent. Such development will cause both parties to fall into the three lower realms or hell. This is, the old evil causes may have been small and would not lead to hell, but when retribution occurs in this life, it may cause both parties to actually fall to hell. This is the crucial point. You think that you have started practicing the Dharma and have repented a lot, but you have not changed your behavioral formula, as well as your mind. You only recite the mantras, but in the end, it turn out to be ineffective. Why? Because you have many old causes, even if they are very small, they will rise exponentially in this life and even make you fall into hell. It will also drag others into hell. How serious do you think this is? This is why Buddha Shakyamuni teaches you the four dharmas of Sramana. He said, if someone hits you, you must not fight back. Once you hit back, a small grudge you did in your past life may turn into a hellish grudge between the two of you. It's very bad. Never fight back. So you say, oh, I understand now, Master. It turns out that if someone hits me, I won't go to hell if I don't fight back. But, Master, is it really that simple? Master, what will happen if I don't fight back? The law of causes and effects will be like this. If someone hits you and you do not fight back, you can repay some of the evil causes from the past and repay the petty grudges. That is, your past evil causes will be reduced. Since you have repaid them, you have a minus on the screen. Do you see it? It means that some of it has been reduced, and it is not as heavy anymore. That is, if someone hits me and I do not fight back, it is called decreasing the evil cause. How much relief will you get? It all depends on your mood at the time and your mind, that is, your emotional reaction. If you are thinking in your heart, even if you are slapped by someone once, twice, 3 times or 4 times in fact, you are shouting in your heart, what? The harder you hit, the greater it hurts. Why? Can't you stop? Why are you hitting the chest after hitting the face? This person is really cruel. You keep scolding and complaining in your heart. Although you do not fight back, your emotions become more and more agitated, you become more and more angry, and your face has turned red. In this way, the percentage of you wanting to repay the old evil cause is unknown. Whether you can repay it, or reduce it by a certain percentage really depends on your mind and mood at the time. The worse your mind is and the more agitated your emotions are, the less you can alleviate the old evil cause from the past. Why? You are adding a new cause. Your mind and emotions are stirring up the seeds in all your 5 aggregates. What are the 5 aggregates? I have talked about them before. There are 5 types of database and all the information in them. Those data are messed up, and then you add bad data into it. If your databases become worse and worse, your reincarnation and other aspects will be worse, right? In other words, not only can you not reduce it, there is also a chance to add a little more. How much you can reduce depends on your mind and emotions. That is, your mind and emotions will affect whether you can repay the old evil causes. Also, it involves whether new evil causes will be added. Thirdly, if you do not fight back, does it mean that you are a coward? In fact, it does not mean that you are a coward. What does it mean? It means strength. According to all the great masters in the past, this is how they taught and explained the 4 dharmas of Sramana, which I agree, too. Your not fighting back is not a sign of cowardice, but a sign of strength. You are very strong in accepting the pain of being beaten and determined to repay the old evil causes. You also know that everything happens for a reason. It means that you believe deeply in cause and effect. You know that everything happens for a reason. There must be a reason. You will not be hit without a reason, right? Even if someone is crazy and hits people randomly, why are there so many people on the street and he only hits you? There must be a reason for it. If you firmly accept and determine to repay the evil causes from the past, it means that you firmly believe that everything happens for a reason and you believe deeply in cause and effect. This everything happens for a reason is also a key point. In response to this key point, you will be strong enough to accept and face the situation. This means acceptance. What do you accept? In other words, you accept the deep belief in cause and effect in the 10 beliefs we taught you before, plus the first step of the mind cultivating procedure we taught you, acceptance. However, there is a very important problem. What I teach you will not be that simple. I will not finish it so quickly, and it will not so superficial. Now I will teach you in greater detail. But being strong does not mean you are wise. Now, when someone hits you, you stand still and do not fight back. Does this in itself mean that you have wisdom? Let me answer you now. You are strong, but it does not mean that you have wisdom. Oh, is that so? Why? It is very simple. I will ask you a few questions and you will understand immediately if you go deeper about this. Firstly, if someone else uses a lethal weapon, such as an axe, a sharp knife, a sharp sword, or a gun, should I also let him attack me? If according to your theory of cause and effect, I am being beaten now because I must accept the deep belief in cause and effect. The cause is that I have planted some evil causes in the past, so now I am being beaten. As you say, everything happens for a reason, right? I believe it. Given that, if he hits me now, must I not accept, repay the debts and stand still for him to hit me? Does this mean that I am strong? After all, Buddha Shakyamuni teaches us, when others hit me, I will not fight back. Is it not what it means? Does it not mean wisdom? Did the master not explain that this was wisdom? If someone hits me, I must repay the evil causes. Not only do I not fight back, but also not being angry. Otherwise, I may not be able to repay it. If I am angry, it may increase some more evil causes. Should I stand still and be beaten by him? Another question is, if he not only beats me, but also beats my family members, should I persuade myself and my family members that this is an evil cause from the past? And we should all stand still and be beaten by him. Should I advise the family members like this? If your family members do not believe in Buddhism and do not believe in the 4 dharmas of Sramana, do you still need to persuade them? Therefore, the second question asks a deeper question, which is derived from this sentence: when someone hits me, I should not fight back. Also, if someone uses a lethal weapon to attack me and my friends, this time not my family, but my friends who are more distant, should I also advise my friends to be beaten like me? The second question earlier was about beating my family members. I feel the pain more closely. When my family members are beaten, I would rather be beaten on their behalf, because I am close to my family members. Now, the third question is about a friend, the relationship being not as close. Should I suffer in his place and stand still to be beaten? Please do not hit this friend, put the debt on me, and I will pay it off for him. Should it be like this? Or, should I advise my friend to join me in being hit, and not to worry about it, because the debt must be paid back? Should it be like this? Now, the fourth question. What if other sentient beings are involved? If others use lethal weapons to hit me and people I do not know, those other sentient beings with more distant relationships, not my friends. Should I also advise those who I do not know to be beaten like me? Should I be beaten on behalf of someone I do not know? Should I do this? Well, here comes the most important question. What happens if a large number of sentient beings are involved? That is, if I know that the lethal weapons or methods used by the person who attacks me and others will cause a large number of casualties, for example. If he uses chemical weapons or poisons to harm many people, should I also advise myself and others to accept such attacks? Did you not say that to practice the Dharma, one must have compassion and bodhicitta? Now that a large number of sentient beings are suffering, should I advise them that this is what they owed before, so they should be attacked? So why not just stand still? Go ahead and accept it. Should I persuade them to be like this? Because according to the four dharmas of Sramana, when someone hits me, I should not fight back. Not fighting back means standing still. To not fight back, what else can you do other than standing still? You can only be beaten, right? Does this conflict with the Dharma? You say that we should have bodhicitta. But would you advise others to stand still to be beaten? Because I believe in the Dharma, do you advise me to stand still and not fight back if someone hits me? Do I also advise others not to fight back? Apart from advising people not to fight back, should I also advise them to stand still and be beaten? Is this how it should be explained? Is this how Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings are interpreted? We are going to explain this teaching. These 5 questions are to enable you to understand the methods Buddha Shakyamuni teaches you. How should they be used to be called wisdom? What is considered incorrect use? What is correct use? In other words, accepting and deeply believing in cause and effect requires wisdom, not only superficial understanding. That is, we must develop 5 kinds of wisdom. Otherwise, how to solve the problem? How should you work with the mind cultivating procedure and the 10 beliefs to develop the 5 wisdoms? In order to solve these 5 problems, we have to apply the 10 beliefs again. The first is faith, meaning that one must accept. Acceptance, with a strong belief in cause and effect and the faith in the Guru, allow you to develop the wisdom of equality, which we have explained before. But how to apply? How to apply to this case? The second is remembrance, meaning that we must accept that all sentient beings are Buddhas, which can help us develop the wisdom of equality. So, how to apply it to when someone hits me, I should not hit back. In fact, this is a kind of acceptance. Do I accept it and then stand still to be beaten? Thirdly, the diligence. It means to ask questions. What should you do if you have greed, hatred and ignorance emotionally and many doubts? Then you must ask, do I have greed, hatred and ignorance? This will help develop the discriminating wisdom. This is called questioning. This is what our mind-cultivating procedure must ask. Fourthly, how to use our wisdom. We need to analyze why greed, hatred, or ignorance is developed. If I successfully analyze it, I can develop the discriminating wisdom. This is analysis. Today we will focus on how these 4 kinds of faith are applied to the 10 beliefs, to this case, to the mind-cultivating procedure, and to the development of the awareness. What kind of awareness can help me? This is a really difficult question, right? Okay, let's take a look. The most important thing to solve now is if someone uses lethal weapons, such as axes, knives, swords, pistols to attach me alone. It does not involve so much for now. There were 5 questions, which would be too complicated. Now I will only talk about just one person. I believe in Buddhism, and I deeply believe in Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching, the 4 dharmas of Sramana. I believe them all. I also believe in the 10 beliefs, the deep belief in cause and effect. I also believe in my guru. I have faith in my guru. I believe it when my guru tells me, if someone hits me, I won't fight back. I also believe that all living beings are Buddhas. There must be a reason for someone to hit me. Let him hit me. Is this correct? Let's now look at how to explain this problem with these 4 beliefs. First of all, what is acceptance? Do not misinterpret the word acceptance. The first one is to accept a deep belief in cause and effect. What does that mean? It means that you have to accept the situation. Why should you accept this situation? The current situation is that someone is chasing you with an axe. You must accept this situation. What happens once you have accepted this situation? You will not be angry. You will be calmer. Because once you get angry, you will panic and lose your concentration, which will affect all your emotions. Your mind will also be affected. However, if you accept this situation, while you are being chased and attached. Needless to say, it must be because you owed something in the past. Even if you cannot find the reason in this life, there must be a reason in previous lives. Everything happens for a reason, and you must believe deeply in cause and effect. So, what to do? As long as you do not get angry, you can settle down and your mind and emotions will not be so disturbed. In other words, your mind is not confused nor deviated. If you hit me, I will hit you back. If you hit me with an axe, I will fight you back with a gun. This becomes a distortion of the mind. However, because you have accepted this situation now, your mind will not be distorted. You will also develop concentration, settle down, and think about how to deal with it. Remember, acceptance does not mean that you'd accept standing still and being hit. That is not how acceptance is interpreted. If you explain it this way, you will get it wrong. If you say that acceptance means do nothing, if someone hits me and I just stand still and do nothing, this is called a wrong interpretation of the Dharma. Today I will explain this crucial point to you. Many people have misunderstood this point. Remember, when someone hits me, I do not fight back, described in the 4 methods of Sramana means that I do not hit him back, but it does not say that you have to stand still to be hit. Is there such a statement? No. You derive this sentence yourself, right? That is, acceptance means accepting the situation. What is the purpose? Because it is really a kind of retribution of past karma, you must accept it so that you can maintain your mind and emotions without deviation. This will be of great help to you. Secondly, have faith in the Guru. What kind of faith should you have? This faith means that you have to solve problems according to the Guru's teachings, and you have to develop the awareness. The Guru has emphasized many times that if you are told to develop the awareness, then you must develop the awareness. What is needed to develop the awareness? It can only be developed if you have a correct mind without emotions. How can you develop the awareness when you are emotionally agitated? If you can accept this situation, you will not be emotionally agitated, and you can develop the awareness. Thirdly, you must accept that all sentient beings are Buddhas, and the person who chases to attack me is also a sentient being, a Buddha. Is the person who is attacking me also a Buddha? Are you mistaken? Actually, what do you want me to do? What does this kind of acceptance mean? You have to set a goal of not violating the precepts and having bodhicitta. What is this? Master, how to set it up? I do not know. I do not understand. Now, I am explaining the details. I gave the framework before, teaching you to accept all sentient beings as Buddhas and set up a framework. You have to set a goal that does not violate the precepts and with bodhicitta. But I did not teach you the details of this goal, so you did not understand. Today I will be teaching the details. All sentient beings are Buddhas. In fact, everyone has the awareness, which is temporarily hidden due to the ignorance and blinded by habits and resentments. Therefore, they have hatred and the thought of hitting others, so they hit them. Sentient beings are affected by the karma of past lives, and their subconscious wants revenge. In fact, they are being manipulated. Sentient beings are inherited with their awareness, but cannot develop it because they are controlled by ignorance, greed, hatred, and all kinds of karma. To put it simply, it is like a puppet that has been manipulated and grabs a knife to chase you. Being angry with it is useless. It is basically controlled. What is the use and meaning for you to get angry? Therefore, you should not have hatred or dissatisfaction towards these sentient beings. Because this will only harm your own Dharma practice, merits, and virtuous evil karmic portfolio. Once you have developed greed, hatred and ignorance, or become emotionally agitated, you will be dragged down to a very miserable state. Why? To be honest, hatred and dissatisfaction are the natural reactions of ordinary people. Everyone is like this. They have been like this having practiced the Dharma for decades. Let me tell you, I have seen a lot of them. This is actually a route for us sentient beings to continue reincarnation. Why? Because when you have emotions and hatred, you have a desire to fight back. You will feel, what have you done? You scolding me? Of course, your face will turn red with hatred, and you will turn your head and ignore it, so that others will know that you are angry, and will not continue to scold you. Chasing to attack you. Of course you are furious. He is holding a knife, and of course you have to grab a gun to show that you are angry. There is a sense of fighting back here. The problem is, however, that if you just get emotional, you are just hurting yourself. You are angry, so angry that your blood pressure rises, and you almost have a heart attack. Is it the other person who has high blood pressure or you? Of course, it is you who is going to have a high blood pressure. Who is so angry that his heart weakens, or even falls down and dies? It is you. Then, what are you actually doing? Harming yourself. In fact, there was no counterattack. It causes no harm to the enemy, and even if it does, only slightly. In fact, this means that you have no strength to fight back. Why are you angry? Have you not learned the 4 methods of Sramana now? If someone hits me, I will not fight back. That is, if he attacks me with a knife, I will not fight him back with a gun. So, you just stand still. However, you have hatred and resentments. So, you have no ability to fight back, but you hurt yourself. This is a very stupid reaction. Thinking deeply, this is called a one-way stupid reaction. What is one way? That is, you will not repel the other party because of your hatred. It is very likely that the other party, your enemy, is very happy. The other party feels that he can finally make you very angry. Great. Great. If he has the opportunity, he will irritate you and make you die of a heart attack, so that he will not break the law and be arrested. Because you die of anger, the court will not able to convict him, right? Your enemies will think like this. So, you are angry. This reaction is actually a stupid one, which means you will have a revengeful mentality. If you are not dead and when you are angry, you will think that he did something and even killed you with a knife. You will definitely take revenge in the future. You will have these mentalities. This will lead to more serious harm to each other in the future. Why are we most afraid of the occurrence of greed, hatred, and ignorance? This is because it will lead to endless disasters in the future. This is why greed, hatred, or ignorance must be eliminated. Not only does it kill you, it also harms the other person. This means that everyone will fall into the quagmire, stepping deeper and deeper in together. It also means that everyone will fall into the three lower realms together, entangle with each other and die. Even if it is difficult to escape from reincarnation, no matter how hard you practice the Dharma, you will never succeed. If you practice the so-called esoteric Buddhism, you can never succeed in becoming a Buddha with the current body. It means that your Dharma practice has failed, of course. All right. In other words, when someone hits me, I shouldn't hit back. In the four dharmas of Sramana, should add one more thing, and that is that you should not have any feelings of hatred or dissatisfaction. This is not allowed. That is, you should not have these two emotions. But do I have to stand still and be beaten? Does it mean that whilst I cannot get angry, dissatisfied, or fight back, I have to stand still and be beaten? Should it be like that? Let's carry on. In fact, we should develop a kind of awareness. What kind of awareness? It is that we must resolve problems according to the Guru's teachings, develop the awareness. This kind of awareness means that you must set a goal which does not violate the precepts and with the bodhisattva. First of all, you have to develop this kind of awareness. What kind of awareness? What is it? It is that we must set a goal following the Master's instructions. You need to set a goal. This goal must be related to bodhisattva and must not violate the precepts. What is that? What should be included? Also, the Guru also instructs that apart from this the goal should be connected with that all sentient beings are Buddhas. The Guru says that if you want to develop the awareness, you must first set a goal, and this goal must meet several conditions. The first is to not violate the precepts. The second is to have bodhisattva, and the third is that it must be related to that all sentient beings are Buddhas. Only can it be called acceptance, and the remembrance of your 10 beliefs be successfully established. Master, what is it exactly? It is like this, now I am teaching you. The details are like this. After you have achieved success in your Dharma practice in the future, you should take the responsibility. Teach and guide all sentient beings so that they can understand the true Dharma at a deeper level, just like how I am teaching you the Dharma now, very detailed, very carefully, slowly, and gradually. You must make all sentient beings have a bodhisattva aspiration that is sincere, not violating the precepts, able to develop the awareness to practice the Dharma, save themselves and others. And make all sentient beings initiate the bodhisattva aspiration. That is, this bodhisattva is bidirectional. What does it mean by bidirectional? Firstly, you have to make a wish to succeed in your Dharma practice. After you achieve success, you must teach sentient beings to do a few things. First, one must understand the Dharma deeply. He must not think that by reciting Namo Buddha Amitabha, he can save himself and reach the Western Pure Land of extreme bliss. In fact, this is impossible. I have explained many principles before. You can refer to many of Buddha Shakyamuni's sutras and you will know that this is impossible. You must go deep. In other words, after you become a Buddha, you must give detailed explanations to all sentient beings. You must make vow to explain and teach in-depth Dharma to all sentient beings. You will not fool sentient beings and ask them to recite Namo Buddha Amitabha, causing their brains to become stagnant and never have the awareness, thinking that they will succeed by reciting a Buddha's holy name alone. It turns out that this is impossible and will only get all sentient beings into trouble. You will vow not to do so. You must vow to let all sentient beings know the in-depth Dharma. What is the correct Dharma? How to develop the awareness? What is the awareness? The first step, please make the body vow yourself. Oh, my body vow is not like this. After I resolve to become a Buddha, I will help other people become Buddhas. If you do not teach sentient beings to deeply understand the Dharma, and you do not teach sentient beings to develop the awareness, how can you help them become Buddhas? You will only teach sentient beings to recite Namo Buddha Amitabha, and go deep in one aspect of the subject. There is no need to learn anything else, such as what the Dudjom Buddhist Association, or what Buddha Shakyamuni teaches. There is no need to learn anything else. If you do this, you will get many sentient beings into great trouble. Buddha Shakyamuni has taught so much Dharma, but you say that there is nothing to be learned. Is it enough to learn just one sentence? You really are getting all sentient beings into trouble. You are burying all their awareness and wisdom, as well all the knowledge they should have. This is a very wrong direction. Buddha Shakyamuni taught the Dharma for 49 years. Have you ever seen him asking everyone to go deep into one aspect of the subject, and only recite Namo Buddha Amitabha? There is no need to teach others. I do not teach them, and you do not need to learn them either. Is it like this? No. Buddha Shakyamuni was not like this. So why do you force sentient beings to be like this? I do not want to praise myself and slander others, nor do I want to belittle some people. I do not want sentient beings to be misled to death. I have made the Bodhisattva vow to help sentient beings understand the Dharma in depth. I must do it once I have said it. One must not be afraid of power. That is, one must have the courage to speak out. If you dare not speak out, how can you call it strong? This is called cowardice, right? In fact, you will get sentient beings into trouble, and I must tell you. It is not me but Buddha Shakyamuni who said it. Just read Buddha Shakyamuni's sutras and you will know. Buddha Shakyamuni taught a lot of Dharma. He taught the Diamond Sutra and the Heart Sutra. He taught a lot of Dharma, but he did not say, you must go deep into one aspect of the subject, and only recite Namo Buddha Amitabha. You don't need to learn anything or practice anything else. As long as you do this, you will definitely be able to go to the Western Pure Land of extreme bliss and become a Buddha. Did he ever say this? No. If not, please do not misinterpret the Dharma. Bring out all the Dharma and teach as much as you can, as deep as possible. This is how you can save sentient beings. Therefore, I want to tell my disciples now that you must remember to make the Bodhisattva vow to save sentient beings. The rescue should not be superficial, or it will drag them down until they die. Because this will cramp their brains. They will not understand other Buddhist teachings. They only know one sentence, only one sentence. Can that sentence save them? Of course not. If it is that easy, there would be no need to teach the Dharma so hard. The Dharma is as vast as the ocean. How can it be explained in one sentence? Do not be fooled by people. Why does the person want to fool you? Because he wants to strengthen his sect to dominate. You only need to believe in him. There is no need to believe in what Buddha Shakyamuni said. You only need to believe in him. In this way, he can be big and strong enough. Do you understand? However, this is not the way to save sentient beings. Do you want to grow your sect to dominate, or do you want to save sentient beings? Which one do you choose? This is something you need to understand. You must make sentient beings have a bodhisattva aspiration of being sincere, not violating the precepts, and able to develop the awareness to practice the Dharma. If you teach sentient beings that they can achieve success by just reciting Namo Buddha Amitabha, or that they can achieve success by only reciting the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, you are not sincere, you are violating the precepts, and you make it impossible for sentient beings to develop the awareness. That is, they are unable to put their Dharma practice into action. This is wrong. Remember, it is wrong. Not only must you save yourself, but you must also save others. You must also make sentient beings make the same vow, teach the deep Dharma, and save yourself and others. What is the main character? It is to develop their awareness. It is not just to recite a sentence, but to develop their awareness. The most important thing is to develop their awareness, understand. This is called the Bodhisattva vow. I also hope that all my disciples make this Bodhisattva vow. This is my Bodhisattva vow. It is because I have made this Bodhisattva vow, so I am going to teach the Dharma tirelessly. Because I have made this vow, I hope you all will do the same. Even if you do not know how to talk like this, you can recommend others to watch my YouTube videos and listen to my tireless teaching of the Dharma, which can be of help to them. Remember, do not harm and get sentient beings into trouble. Do not let your laziness, greed, hatred, or ignorance get all sentient beings into trouble. Never do this. Many great sages have said this before. However, there was no YouTube at the time and the books they wrote were buried and not published. So, no one knows about them. Now that there is YouTube, I will inherit their legacy. What they could not talk about or carry forward, I will speak for them. I also speak for Buddha Shakyamuni. I just hope that Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings will not be distorted by others. Do you understand? This, we should set a goal of not violating the precepts and having bodhisattva, is the goal. This is called acceptance. Their acceptance in your remembrance is thus achieved. And you are not only doing it for yourself, but also for other sentient beings. This is all sentient beings as Buddhas. All sentient beings have their awareness, and they are all Buddhas. You should develop their awareness to help them, instead of asking them to memorize a sentence blindly. This is the true Bodhisattva vow. Okay. Questioning what to be asked. Have I not given a framework? What is your goal? Let's see. What is the problem you want to solve now? You say that someone is chasing to attack you now. Should you stand still and be killed by him? This is your question. Then, how do you set your goal? For your own safety, you have to make a choice. This is your goal. What is your goal? Your own safety. Make choices for safety. What is it? Life is precious, and you need to have a healthy body to practice the Dharma. If your health suffers or you even die, there is no way to continue the Dharma practice. So, I will ask you a question, a very simple one. can you ensure that you can resume your Dharma practice path in your next life? Please answer me. If you are not sure, you cannot answer it. Or if your answer is no, you need to protect yourself. A simple answer, right? No one in the world or any sentient being can answer it with certainty. I will definitely be able to ensure that I can learn Buddhism again, in my next life, and continue on the path of Dharma practice, without interruption. No one is brave enough to say this. Why? How do you know your virtuous, evil karmic portfolio? If you have a lot of bad karma, and will go to hell in the next 100 lives, how can you continue on this path of Dharma practice? If everything is interrupted, how will you know whether you can continue to practice the Dharma when you come back? At that time, maybe your mind has been seriously deviated, and it will be a long time before you are able to get it back. The situation could be like this. In order to practice the Dharma, we have to make a choice, which is to protect our own safety, with protecting our own safety as the main goal. There is also a second point. The Dharma practice, as I have already said, is not just for yourself. As said earlier, you have to make a body vow, and the body vow must meet several conditions. These have already been taught. If you make this bodhisattva vow, then your Dharma practice also includes others. In order to save other sentient beings, should I protect my own safety? Because you have set the goal of not violating the precepts and having bodhisattva from the beginning, you need to protect yourself even more. Your protection of yourself is a choice based on a selfless goal and is a balanced choice. It is not a selfish choice. Why? Because you have made a body vow and you are protecting yourself for it. In other words, this is a balanced choice. You must remember this name. It is called a balanced choice. It turns out that there are many choices. Remember, all choices must be preceded by 3 words. They must be the balanced choices. If your choices are unbalanced, it is actually easy for you to lose your awareness and make wrong decisions. So, remember the word balanced. Okay, while questioning, you must ask whether you have greed, hatred, and ignorance. What should be checked? For example, when you face a situation where you may be beaten or attacked, will it arouse your greed, hatred, and ignorance? The third question is, will your greed, hatred, and ignorance lead to further wrong actions? What is a wrong action? For example, would you hit him without fighting back? As Buddha Shakyamuni says, if someone hits me, I won't hit him back. But I can ask others to hit him. Would that be okay? In this way, I do not fight back, following Buddha Shakyamuni's teaching to not fight back. I only ask others to fight back. It should be okay if I ask others to hit him. I ask others to hit him so that he can no longer beat me, so I can get away. This behavior demonstrates a wrong action caused by your greed, hatred, and ignorance. This is called wrong behavior. Okay, analysis. You must use your wisdom to analyze. In fact, I have already given you a framework. Firstly, you need to analyze based on your goal. In other words, your goal is to make a choice to protect your own safety. So, how to arrange to ensure your own safety? Now let's get to the point. In fact, the most important thing is that I want to teach you how to analyze and how to develop the wisdom to analyze. Let's take the current case as an example. Applying the first of the 4 dharmas of Sramana, when someone hits me, I don't fight back. To this case for analysis, what arrangements should be made to ensure my safety? What is the most important part of this? There are 3 teachings that you must understand. The first is the Hinayana method, the second is the Mahayana method, and the third is the esoteric Buddhist method. You must see this clearly. The first, the Hinayana method, is called severing the afflictions in order to achieve body. It says, are the afflictions coming? Is anyone chasing to attack me? Never mind. Just cut them off. Once the afflictions are cut off, you can realize body and develop the awareness. The second, the Mahayana, or the exoteric Buddhist method. The esoteric Buddhism is of the Mahayana tradition, same as the exoteric Buddhism. They are usually called Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana. In fact, the real names are Hinayana, exoteric and esoteric Buddhism, which will be clearer. However, many people do not call them this way, and I will follow how they call them. Because some people out there refer these methods as Hinayana, Mahayana, and Vajrayana when explaining, I will just follow them. In fact, it will be clearer if Hinayana, exoteric and esoteric Buddhism are used. The Mahayana method is to transform the afflictions to become body. It says that, when the worries come, change them. Change them and make worries become your awareness. The Vajrayana method is that afflictions are body. It states that, what are you changing? What are you cutting off? What are you removing? The afflictions are indeed body. What cutting off, chopping off, changing it all wrong? It should be that afflictions are indeed body. How are these three methods applied in daily life? Well, let's take a look at the explanation first. Body. I have talked about it many times. What is body? Body means that awareness. I have given dozens of lectures, all of which have been about the awareness, right? In fact, afflictions come from phenomena caused by our Dharma nature of the awareness being deceived or interfered with. This is, let me give you an example. I have taught it before, could be in the 6th episode of the Compassion series. I have already talked about this metaphor. Not sure if I remember it correctly. It is about beer and beer bubbles. Where do beer bubbles come from exactly? When the beer is stirred, constantly stirred, a lot of beer bubbles will appear. Beer bubbles are those afflictions, and the beer is your awareness, which is also called body and the Dharma nature. If you stir up those greed, hatred and ignorance, they will produce beer bubbles, which are afflictions. That is, if you use greed, hatred, and ignorance to disturb your awareness, you will have afflictions. Another metaphor is that if you take a stick to stir the beer, beer bubbles will appear. Do you understand? If you want to restore the original appearance of the beer, what method do you use? It is not to stir it. If you do not stir it anymore, those beer bubbles will slowly turn back to beer after a while. In other words, two methods are used. The first is called stillness, that is, I do not stir it. The second one is integration, merging the two into one. Let the beer bubbles merge and turn back to beer. As such, you can turn the beer bubbles back into beer. In the same way, I have afflictions now, and I want to restore them back to their awareness. I am very troubled now, and I want to develop their awareness. I want to restore their awareness. Master, you always ask me to develop their awareness. How do I develop it? Isn't the Master teaching you the details now? It is like this. You have to use the mind cultivating procedure plus the oral pith instructions I teach you. What is the most important oral pith instruction? You should not abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness. That's it. Why will this work? The mind cultivating procedure teaches you not to have greed, hatred, and ignorance. Not to have greed, hatred, and ignorance is to not do things carelessly, not to hit people back, or to ask others to hit them. This is called stillness. The mind cultivating procedure actually teaches you how to calm your mind. The mind cultivating procedure makes you free from greed, hatred, and ignorance. The absence of greed, hatred, and ignorance means that there is no interference, that is, you have calmed down. So, you can integrate. What do you need to work with? You need to work with this oral pith instruction, not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness, to integrate. Why? This is the same as beer, and beer bubbles, afflictions, restored to their awareness. I use the mind cultivating procedure to calm my mind, restore calm, and then have an integrated mind. Because I use the awareness, from not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness. What kind of awareness is it? It is called an integrated mind, which enables me to develop the awareness. Then, you will eliminate all the interference of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Do you understand? Your afflictions can be restored to the awareness. It turns out that the way to restore the awareness is so simple. If you do not explain it, it will be incomprehensible. After you have explained it, you will say, "Oh, Master." It's actually very simple. Why didn't you teach it earlier? I have to finish everything, from episode 20 to episode 38, before this session today, episode 39, so we can talk about details and application, right? That is, there is a prerequisite which you must do. It is to regard afflictions as derivative phenomena of body. This is an oral pitch instruction and a crucial point. In other words, you must familiarize and memorize this phrase, afflictions are indeed body. You will know clearly that all the afflictions are a derivative phenomenon that arises from the interference of your awareness. That is, as long as you no longer interfere with it, you can restore the awareness. See? It is that simple. This is a prerequisite. If there is a program in your mind, this program is called afflictions are indeed body. If you do not disturb your awareness, and do not interfere with it with greed, hatred, and ignorance, you can restore your awareness. Then, there will be no afflictions. If you have this consciousness, you will succeed. However, if your consciousness is not like this, if you do not have this consciousness, without this prerequisite, you will not be able to succeed no matter how you practice the Dharma. Do you understand? No matter how you practice the Dharma, that awareness will not be developed. Let's take a look now. Hinayana practitioners speak of severing the afflictions in order to achieve body. In fact, cutting off afflictions is the same as cutting off body. Why? It turns out that afflictions are body. Now if you want to cut them off with a sword, isn't it just like cutting off your own awareness with a sword? This is cutting off body, so how can you succeed in your Dharma practice? So, cutting off body means cutting off the awareness. It means that you have lost the awareness. In other words, the Hinayana method is a temporary method to stop bleeding. And it is not the correct method at all. It only temporarily stops bleeding, but it will only make you more and more stupid and dull. For example, if you only know one sentence, one mantra, or one Buddha's holy name in your entire Dharma practice, all your wisdom will be dulled and you will lose all your awareness. Why? Because you are unable to consider the problem. You will only say, when afflictions come, just cut them off. In this way, you will lose your awareness. Because when you scoop out the beer bubbles, there will be less and less beer. You stir the beer and the beer turns into beer bubbles every day. If you scoop out all the beer bubbles every day, in the end, there is only an empty cup left. There will be no awareness left. This is because you are practicing the Dharma with the wrong mentality. While severing the afflictions, that awareness is also cut off. This is the main reason why Hinayana practitioners can never become a Buddha. The highest they can achieve is to become an Arahant. Let's look at the exoteric Buddhism. The exoteric Buddhism says that if we are to transform afflictions to become body, we must turn and change them. It will be okay just to change them. That is, you make transformations and changes. If you want to change it, it will no longer be still. While turning, it will no longer be still. Turning means turning around, wandering in the garden, so even if you turn around, you will not get to the point and are unable to achieve stillness and integration. That is why the exoteric Buddhist methods are very slow, and it may not be successful even if it takes 3 greater Samkhya-kalpa. So, it is very slow. Let's look at the esoteric Buddhism. The esoteric Buddhism says that the afflictions are body. Afflictions are body. You should not touch them. The oral pith instruction is stillness and integration. Please do not teach them as it means stillness and integration. So, what are the esoteric Buddhist practice methods like? They are most direct and fastest, without losing that awareness or burying more awareness. They are not like the soil that breaks or buries them. It will not be like this. Therefore, if you practice the exoteric Buddhist teaching, it will be slow and difficult. And you will not get to the point after practicing it. Today's Buddhism is really miserable. People laugh at it and question the wisdom in Buddhism. It is only required to know one sentence, Namo Buddha Amitabha, and nothing else. 9 out of 10 people who practice Buddhism only know how to recite one Buddha's holy name. They do not know much about the true meaning of the Dharma. If you ask a few more questions, you will only get an answer, and that is to go deeper in one aspect. As long as we continue to recite, we will have the meditational concentration. Once there is meditational concentration, we will become a Buddha. Concentration will not help you become a Buddha. Make no mistake. The meditational concentration of other religions is even more powerful. Once they enter concentration, they could sit for 80,000 kalpa. What about you? You can only meditate for a few days at most, which is good, right? A few months, which is great. A few years, so what? Others who have meditated for tens of thousands of great kalpa will also end up in vain. In the end, they will all fall and fail to succeed in cultivation. So, do not tell me about meditational concentration. Meditational concentration is only an ancillary force, not a decisive factor. So, what is the decisive factor for becoming a Buddha? It is the awareness. It is that simple. Please do not teach people to just recite Namo Buddha Amitabha to bury their awareness, to get to know the Dharma. This is an extremely selfish and cruel behavior for the benefit of your own religious sect. Please do not be so cruel. Really do not be so cruel. Remember, why can the esoteric Buddhism achieve Buddhahood quickly and easily? It is because it applies this oral pith instruction, afflictions are body. That is, the 3 methods represent 3 mentalities. The difference in mentality means the difference in speed and effectiveness. It is indeed a huge difference. In the past, the explanations of these 3 methods were quite confusing and unclear. But today I will try to explain them clearly to you, and I have used beer as an example to make you understand. But the problem is not about the explanation. Explaining them is not the most difficult thing. What is the most difficult? What I think difficult is truly difficult. I think the biggest problem is how to put these cultivation points into practice in daily life. This is indeed a high level of difficulty. This really requires careful thinking. To put it simply, it takes a lot of energy and time to explain it to you clearly. It requires a lot of thinking, right? Okay, let's talk about how to apply afflictions being body in daily life. How can we make arrangements to ensure our own safety? Well, the Hinayana method is to sever the afflictions in order to achieve body. Mahayana is to transform afflictions to become body. It is still stirring the beer. The method of esoteric Buddhism is that afflictions are body. You do not want to keep stirring the beer. Let's take a look now. In fact, the Hinayana practitioners use escape methods and regard the other person as a devil. Now, if someone is chasing me with an axe, I will assume that the person chasing me is the devil. I will first set and position the target as the devil. Then, of all the stratagems, retreat is the best, that is, escape. In other words, it will be okay just to cut it off. They will find a place to hide and treat the other party as a terrorist attack. The method used is to recite Buddhist sutras, pray and ask for blessings. This is their method. If using the exoteric Buddhist methods, one will call the police and guards to change the state of strength. I am totally unarmed now, and I am being chased by someone with an axe. And I have a phone in my hand. Of course, I must call the police immediately and shout for help. Help! Is there anyone nearby to save me? In other words, it is to change the state of my strength now. My current ability is not enough to deal with the problem of being chased and attacked. I must change my strength, find help, find helpers, and strengthen it. This is to change. Also, I must keep a distance from the other party, that is, I hurry up and leave as quickly as possible. I am afraid of you even. If you do not chase me, I will give you some benefits and repay you the debts. I will treat the other party as an enemy, a karmic creditor. What else is there to do? Recite the Buddha's holy names, pray, and repent to seek blessings and alleviate one's karma. Let's take a look at what esoteric Buddhists would do. Esoteric Buddhists would negotiate and use direct communication to convey regards. It is to communicate directly. You should also convey your regards. They will treat each other as friends, equals, no difference from themselves. Why? As it is stated, afflictions are indeed body. Afflictions come from my awareness. If I do not disturb them, they will change back to their awareness. That is, I will not stir it up. I will not get in contact with the other party. And I will not regard the other party as an enemy, but as a friend. I will negotiate with him, communicate directly and ask, why are you chasing and attacking me with a knife? Is it okay not to kill me? What difficulties do you have that you can tell me? If you tell me my mistakes and I will repent. Please forgive me. You will use direct communication methods, resolve the other party's resentment with sincerity, provide support and help and save the other party. Exoteric Buddhists would regard it as repaying a debt. I give you money and benefits. However, as an esoteric Buddhist, and if you truly have the mentality of afflictions being bodhi, you will say, I will support you, okay. I will support you and I will help you. Can you treat me as a friend? We all help each other. You will be like this, treating each other as equals. You will recite mantras, pray, repent, and contemplate yourself as the deity. This is how you practice the Dharma. Develop the awareness in afflictions, integrate into the essence of the problem, and use the awareness to solve problems according to circumstances. What does it mean by integrating the essence of the problem? It is to directly ask why the attacker is chasing you. This is the essence of the problem. You need to have the courage to ask him. Of course, this depends on your own ability. If he is insane and kills people at will, and you go over to him and ask him, this will make it easier for him to kill you. That is, it has to depend on your own ability. Can you withstand this axe? Do you have protective facilities given the circumstances at the time? Is the situation at that time critical? Also, the mental state of the attacker, is he insane? Decide which method is best. In other words, no matter what method you use, you must remember that in terms of mentality, you must adopt the one by esoteric Buddhism. That is, afflictions are indeed body. And that you must work with the oral pith instruction, not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness. In other words, you can use many different methods as long as you do not violate the precepts. For example, would escape, of all the stratagems, retreat is the best, be okay? Yes, it would. However, your mentality is that you cannot regard the other person as an enemy, nor as a karmic creditor. You are not changing your afflictions. You are now regarding afflictions as body. I regard the other person as a friend. And I will communicate with him later. For now, I will dial 999 to call the police and call for help. However, my mentality is that afflictions are body. I regard him as a friend. And I will find a way to help him after taking care of my own safety. I will not make the other person feel abandoned. I will not make the other person think that I regard him as an enemy, regard him as a karmic creditor, and curse him to death. I will not do this. Do you understand? In other words, the mentality is to adopt the esoteric Buddhist mentality, in terms of methods. Any can be used as long as it does not violate the precepts. The mentality is to think about how to help the other party in the future, understand? It is to use the esoteric Buddhist mentality and different methods to solve the problem. It should be explained like this. This is how to apply afflictions are body in daily life. Okay, now let's talk about the second, analysis. I have said that you need to collect data to analyze the favorable climatic, geographical, and human conditions. In other words, what do you need to analyze? Protective measures that can be used when leaving the scene. For example, you are trapped in a restaurant. Someone is holding a gun and ordering not to move. Everyone is hiding and looking for something to cover. So, how do I use protective measures to leave the scene and escape from this horrendous situation of being held hostage? Let's take a look at these three methods. We have to do the analysis. The first analysis is how do you arrange to ensure your own safety? You need to come up with applicable protective measures to leave the scene, right? This is what happens if you use the Hinayana method. Only consider personal protective measures, and do not worry about other people. Why? The Hinayana practitioners make it clear that they will only save themselves. As for you, you might as well support me and let me escape from reincarnation and become an arhat. Once I enter the 5 heavens of no returning, I cannot come out. Once I come out, I will fall. So, you should regard your support as a way to accumulate merits and blessings, or as a way to pay off debts, but after I leave in the future, I will not come back to save you. In terms of protective measures, I will only take care of my own protective measures. After I leave the scene, all I can do is dial 999 to call the police for you. I will not think of other ways to help you. If it is an exoteric Buddhist considering protective measures, he may also consider other people. This is different from a Hinayana practitioner. He may also neglect his own safety and is even willing to sacrifice, which is great. Sacrifice yourself to feed the tiger. Buddha Shakyamuni tried this method many lifetimes ago, before he became a Buddha. Because at that time he was still learning exoteric Buddhist teachings, and did not understand esoteric Buddhism. Seeing that the tiger was starving to death, and how desolate it was, he jumped into the tiger's den, and let the tiger eat him to ease its hunger. Suppose the tiger eats one meal and is full for 10 days, but what about the 11th day? What about the 12th day? What about the 13th day? Does your method completely save the tiger from starving to death? No. This is not a thorough method. Let's look at the esoteric Buddhist method. While you will consider personal protection measures, you will also be concerned about others. Secondly, you will see yourself and others as equals. Equality. Please remember, although equality and balance are different, they serve the same purpose. They will not be biased towards one side. That is, I take care of myself and you. I will not only care about you and not myself, nor will I only care about myself and not about you. To put it simply, try to use the awareness and wisdom to solve problems, and do not make unnecessary sacrifices. What is a meaningless sacrifice? A meaningless sacrifice is at most a sacrifice of oneself. The sacrifices that involve others are even worse. What does that mean? It is about balancing and not making the tiger bear the karmic debt of killing. If you jump into the tiger's den, the tiger will not have to starve for 10 days, but it will still starve to death after the 11th day. You cannot help it. You cannot completely help it. This is the first point. The second point is that if the tiger eats you, it is killing a sentient being. If it eats a Dharma practitioner, too bad, it will definitely go to hell. I do not know how long it will be trapped for. This is a causal relationship, and no judge can judge the crime. By allowing it to eat a Dharma practitioner, you are causing a great harm to it. You do not need to worry about the tiger. It will definitely fall into hell. You are doing a bad thing out of good intentions. You can refer to the third episode of the Mind Cultivation series, available from Dudjom Buddhist Association TV channel on YouTube. This episode explains the effects of sacrificing yourself to feed the tiger. You can watch it again. Moreover, you overestimate your strength and your ability. When you are bitten by a tiger, you will not die but in terrible pain. Seeing its dirty teeth stuck to the flesh bit into the body, your pain will be excruciating. You overestimate your abilities. You may be extremely angry and dizzy with the shock, but you have not fainted. You are continuously frightened. This is too bad. Death caused by fear can easily lead to the 3 lower realms. Why? Because panic will trigger your own panic karma in the virtuous, evil karmic portfolio. The bad karma you have done before will be triggered for you to go to hell, or the 3 lower realms. Why do you create so many conditions to trigger your own bad karma, and make yourself fall into the 3 lower realms quickly? Are you trying to save others, or are you going to kill yourself and hurt others? If you do this, you will not be able to save others, but you will also hurt yourself and others. This is unwise. Because you may be extremely frightened at the time. You may say that Buddha Shakyamuni also did this. Does the fact that Buddha Shakyamuni could do it mean that you can do it? Do you know that Buddha Shakyamuni survived the 3 greater Samkhya Kalpa, endured countless pains, and fell into hell many times? He suffered countless pains and fell into hell. Do you know how this happened? If you do not know anything, please do not simply recite Namo Buddha Amitabha. You should read more Buddhist sutras and discover more wisdom. In short, one thing to remember is to be balanced. It does not mean that it is okay for me to sacrifice. Sacrifice must be done in the right place and to be effective. Efficacy. If you practice the esoteric Buddhism, you are supposed to become a Buddha. Or if you practice the exoteric Buddhism, you are supposed to become a Buddha after practicing for 3 greater Samkhya Kalpa. After becoming a Buddha, you could have come back to save them. However, now that you die so miserably and have fallen into hell, you do not know whether you will be able to escape from hell and practice the Dharma again in the future. This is an interruption. In terms of efficiency, it is not good for you to do this. Thirdly, choice. There are many ways to save people. Why must you choose this one? Self-sacrifice is not the best way. Please remember that you must use wisdom and the awareness to choose balanced and efficient methods to save others and yourself. Do not be mean to yourself, and do not be mean to others either. We need to be wise to analyze. This is called wisdom, which requires wisdom, meditational concentration, and analysis. Now I am teaching you how to analyze. Thirdly, you say that when you teach me to analyze, you stipulate that there should be 3 parts, and the third part is to analyze why greed, hatred, and ignorance arise based on the precepts and the Dharma. In other words, I must find out the reasons why there is greed, hatred, and ignorance. Let's take a look. That is, you must first learn how to arrange things to ensure your own safety. Secondly, how to use protective measures to help me leave the scene. Thirdly, we must find out the reasons why there is greed, hatred, or ignorance. It turns out that it also depends on the precepts we observe. This is the rule. This framework has been given to you, but how to use it? Now I will teach you how to use it. The Hinayana method. The Hinayana precepts regard greed, hatred, and ignorance as poisonous things, and one must leave or remove them as soon as possible. The Hinayana practitioners will not study the causes of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Why? Because once they have been cut off, there will be no afflictions. Why bother with so many things? This is the Hinayana mentality and method. The exoteric Buddhist methods. The Mahayana Buddhist practitioners regard greed, hatred, and ignorance as poisonous things. You must transform them. So, hurry up and find the antidote. The method of transformation must of course comply with the precepts and not be transformed randomly. What will you do? To find the antidote, you go round and round in the garden to find the antidote. This is stirring up the awareness. The Mahayana practitioners will not study the causes of greed, hatred, and ignorance. Why? Because they only study methods of transformation. How to find an antidote to transform it. They would not focus on the core issue itself. What is the core issue? The core issue is, no need to transform, but wait for the awareness to be developed. What is the core of the problem? It turns out that afflictions are indeed body. You think about transforming it all day long, but where do you need to transform it? It is what it is, so why transform it? You have mistaken the core of the problem, and ended up going round and round for 3 greater Samkhya Kalpa. This is the exoteric Buddhism. So, you must remember that as soon as that awareness is developed, afflictions will disappear automatically. You do not need to do so many things, understand? Let's look at the esoteric Buddhism. It says that afflictions are indeed body. The precepts of the esoteric Buddhism regard greed, hatred, and ignorance as a demonstration of body, and they need to be integrated. Do you understand? Therefore, it is necessary to study the reasons why there is greed, hatred, or ignorance in order to master the method of integration. Why? Isn't it still not moving at all? There is nothing to be done, and it will merge on its own. You are overestimating your ability. Do you have such high level of meditational concentration? One oral pith instruction you need to remember is that as soon as that awareness is developed, afflictions will automatically disappear. In other words, the development of the awareness is the protagonist. If you want to develop the awareness, you must understand the causes and remedies for greed, hatred, and ignorance. In fact, why can you not develop the awareness now? Because there are things disturbing you. What are disturbing me? It is your greed, hatred, and ignorance that are disturbing you. They interfere with you so that your awareness cannot reveal. Greed, hatred, and ignorance are something that prevents you from being still. You need to be still now. Only when you are still can you integrate. So how can we be still? Stillness allows you to develop the awareness. So, how can we be still? It is to not have greed, hatred, and ignorance. So, how can you not have greed, hatred, and ignorance? You must study the reasons why you have greed, hatred, and ignorance, and then you will know how to eliminate them. This requires meditational concentration, so that you can be still. When there is no more greed, hatred, or ignorance to interfere with you, you can integrate. In other words, you need to use wisdom to analyze. And these analyses must comply with the precepts. Remember, different precepts, different mentalities, and different directions of mind cultivation will lead to different speeds and results. Therefore, you must remember what I just said. You must adopt the esoteric Buddhist mentality, and you must also study the reasons why there is greed, hatred, or ignorance. Okay, now let me talk another level of content to make this clearer to you regarding, if someone hits me, I won't fight back. If someone hits me, this means that I owe it to him. Because I owe someone, so someone hits me. The Hinayana method is to escape and regard the other person as a devil.
This is abiding in notions. Why? This is abiding in the notion of self. I have an enemy. Abiding in the notion of people, that person also owes me. He is an enemy. Notions of sentient beings, here, sentient beings, refer to human beings, or a dog, or a lion chasing me. These are the notions of sentient beings. In short, they are enemies. Notions of longevity. Wow. This is a devil. The devil is superior, as he has higher abilities than me. As such, you have abided in the four notions. This is because you mentally regard the other person a devil. You will immediately abide in all four notions.
Okay, let's take a look at the exoteric Buddhism. The exoteric Buddhists regard the other party as an enemy and karmic creditor.
This is also abiding in notions. They abide in the notion of self, I have enemies, and I have karmic creditors. They abide in the notion of people, this person is really bad. He is chasing to attack me. Notions of sentient beings, this lion is really bad, chasing me.
It must be one of my karmic creditors.
Notions of longevity, he is superior, and his power is higher than mine.
So, he is chasing to get rid of me. He is such a bad person.
In this way, you have already abided in the notion of longevity.
Next, let's look at the esoteric Buddhism. An esoteric Buddhist treats the other person as a friend, an equal, indistinguishable from their own.
This is called not abiding in notions. Why? No notions of self, he and I are equal.
Everyone is the same. They are all the same. Every sentient being has the perfect enlightenment, the awareness, and the Buddha nature. Everyone is a Buddha.
No notions of people, only the awareness. No notions of sentient beings, even if it is a lion, I will regard it as a sentient being with the awareness.
It has the awareness.
No notions of longevity, everyone is equal.
No one is higher than me, or I am better than you. Everyone is supposed to have the perfect enlightenment. The reason why we are currently unable to become a Buddha is because we are temporarily blinded by greed, hatred, and ignorance. In the future, when I uncover all greed, hatred, and ignorance, I will succeed. My awareness will be revealed. Without the interference of greed, hatred, and ignorance, I will succeed.
Therefore, he can achieve, not abiding in any notions, and can further achieve, not abiding anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness and arouse the awareness.
In other words, others beat me, does not mean that I need to be beaten by others in order to repay the debt, but that I should use different methods to resolve and repay this grudge. And the mentality used must be an esoteric Buddhist one. Jesus said this: if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn to them the other cheek also. This is really great, and I admire it very much. However, you must remember that this approach will increase the other person's bad karma. When he slaps you on the left cheek, he has already sown bad karma. Even if you owed him, what is why he slaps you now? However, I have already said that there are many ways to repay debts, and it does not necessarily require beating him or using violence to collect debts. There are many ways to collect debts, and there are many ways to repay debts. In short, violence cannot be used, right? Now, he uses violence to collect debts and you accept this kind of violence to repay the debts. What will happen? The minds of both parties are deviated, increasing negative karma. Because the other party hits you, this is adding new bad karma. If you stand still to be beaten, you will harm others and increase your bad karma. Why are the mind deviated? Violence cannot solve all problems. If someone uses violence to hit you and you accept it, the other person will feel that you agree that it is right for him to use violence to collect debts. You willingly accept to repay the debts with violence. So, in the future, both of us will use violence to solve problems. If you hack me once, I will hack you twice. When everyone uses violence to solve problems, this is called the mind being deviated. Do you understand? In fact, it cannot solve everything, because the problem is that there is resentment in the heart. Using violence, you are just adding more resentment, understand? Sometimes, you will be careless and hit someone else by mistake. So, we must remember that violence cannot solve problems. If someone slaps me on the left cheek, should I let him slap the right cheek, as well? Think about it for yourself. I have already told you the answer. If you are unable to think this through, it means that you do not understand what I am talking about. Remember, use the esoteric Buddhist mentality, and use different methods to solve problems. Remember. Okay. What if it is others who owe me something? Can I hit them? In other words, if someone owes me and I am going to collect the debt, can I use violence to hit the person when I go to collect the debt? If I use the Hinayana method, I will regard the other person as a devil. Now I am collecting debts. He owed me before. Is he not a devil? When someone fails to repay his debts, I will have afflictions in my mind. In order to eliminate the afflictions, I beat him. After I beat him, I feel relieved that the debt collection has been successful. This is the Hinayana method. You may say that is not the case. This is not how Buddha Shakyamuni taught us. Correct.
Buddha Shakyamuni did not teach you this.
But the problem is that you have misinterpreted Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. When your mind is deviated, you will do this. You will feel that I was beaten by him when he was collecting the debts. Now I am collecting debts, I should beat him in the same way, which is very reasonable. You would think like this. Then, you will go astray, understand? If you use the Mahayana method, it will also easily lead you to go astray, and you will go astray this time. The Mahayana Buddhists regard the other party as an enemy, a karmic creditor. So, you will think, others have not repaid their debts, and I have an affliction in my heart. In order to get rid of this affliction, okay, I will transform it. How to transform it? To rid you of the trouble is to make you happy. How is that? Finding someone to beat him will do. Buddha Shakyamuni said that you cannot fight back. So, I find someone to beat him. In this way, your thinking is deviated and wrong. In other words, when you do things with different attitudes and behaviors, you will think about things incorrectly in the future and misinterpret all Buddhist teachings. It will be like this. Let's look at the esoteric Buddhism. The esoteric Buddhist method is that afflictions are body. It treats the other person as a friend, an equal, and no different from oneself. That is, the affliction itself is one's own awareness, and there is no need to get rid of it. There is no need to scoop out those beer bubbles or cut them off. Just wait for them to merge naturally. If you do not beat others or find people to hit someone, you will automatically have no afflictions. This is the esoteric Buddhism. So, an incorrect mentality can easily lead to wrong thoughts and wrong behaviors. Therefore, if you want to stop reincarnation and become a Buddha, you must practice the Dharma with the most correct mentality. What is the most correct mentality? It is that afflictions are body. So, you must remember what I have said. Do not misinterpret the Dharma. Allow all sentient beings to develop the true awareness and wisdom. If this is the case, you need to read many Buddhist sutras well and widely, and know how to interpret many sutras, not just 1, 2, 3 or 5 sutras. Do not recite only one sentence stubbornly. Do not just say that you need to go deep into one subject and not understand all other Buddhist teachings. If you do this, all your awareness will be buried, and you will end up in a miserable self-trapped state. You will be miserable, and you will definitely have your share in the 3 lower realms. So, remember, what is the best way to solve problems and hatred? It is wisdom, non-violence, and compliance with the precepts. Okay. Now let's see, if someone hits me with a lethal weapon, me alone, should I be hit? Now let me give you a summary. The goal, remember, is that it must be set based on your own safety as well as the safety of others. This is your goal. Secondly, analysis. You need to look into protective measures and analyze the reasons why you have greed, hatred and ignorance. Then, what mentality do you need to keep? You must maintain the mentality that afflictions are body, a deep belief in cause and effect plus the confidence in the Guru. However, you must be careful if these masters are false masters, or they teach you to go deep into one subject only and say you can definitely succeed by reciting one Buddha's holy name without understanding other Buddhist teachings. You only need to grab these 2 or 3 Buddhist sutras and that is enough. Other sutras are all fake. You do not need to study them. Such a guru, if you follow him, you will be dead. What I say here to have faith in the Guru refers to those who can teach you the awareness and will not let you have a deviated mind. A guru who does not have a wrong understanding and conforms to the norms of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. You cannot make a mistake. What do you need to comply with? You must comply with the precepts, and you must protect yourself from any wrong behavior. Do not misinterpret the Dharma. Method. What is it? You need to apply the 10 beliefs plus the mind-cultivating procedure to solve problems with the awareness and wisdom. What is the oral pith instruction? It is not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness. The goal, remember that you should not be beaten. Never stand still to be beaten. This will cause harm to yourself and others. It is because repaying debt does not mean that you have to harm others, accumulating evil deeds and making your own mind bad. It should not be like this. In your analysis, you must take all protective measures because it is your responsibility to take good protective measures. Remember, it is your responsibility. You must do it. Thirdly, you must maintain that afflictions are indeed body, have a deep belief in the cause and effect, and have faith in the Guru. This is very important, because it is what determines how fast you go. If you do not have the mentality of afflictions being body, a deep belief in cause and effect, and the method taught by your Guru, you will be very slow, or even go astray. Precepts are the awareness plus the meditational concentration. Because precepts can help you gain meditational concentration and develop the awareness. And because the precepts themselves are a kind of awareness, everything must conform to the precepts. Protect yourself so that you do not cause wrong behavior. First of all, you should not trigger your own greed, hatred, and ignorance, because you cannot harm the other person because of your greed, hatred, and ignorance. Okay. Methods and oral pith instructions are the key points. Remember, there are many ways, but there can only be one mentality. Again, there are many methods, but only one mentality. That is, afflictions are body. Remember. Otherwise, do not expect to cultivate well or quickly. Do not even think about it. Also, you can easily go astray.
You must remember that to have attachments is to abide in notions. If you use Hinayana and exoteric Buddhist methods, you are abiding in notions, and there will be deviations.
You must remember 2, 4, 6, 7, these 7 methods I am teaching you now, and you have to understand these 7 points clearly. In other words, even if your life is threatened, injured or killed in the end, you cannot deviate from these 7 important matters. You may say, Master, I did everything, but I still got beaten. Then this is nothing to do with you. You are not standing still to be beaten. If you are to be beaten eventually, treat it as repayment. In fact, it is repayment. So, do not have greed, hatred, and ignorance emotionally, understand. Otherwise, you will fall into the 3 lower realms, hells, hungry ghosts, and animals, and all your previous efforts will be in vain. Never do this. So, remember, if you can do it, you will succeed in your Dharma practice quickly. Okay. Now let's look at another situation, that is, if someone uses a lethal weapon to attack not only me but also my family. I love my family very much. Should I persuade my family to be beaten like myself? You must know the answer. You can use the 7 things I teach you now. That is, you and your family must protect yourselves carefully and not to be beaten. Understand? Our lives are at stake right now, right? Can I attack someone because I want to protect my family? Well, my family and I will not stand still to be beaten. But now, I want to protect my family. Should I do something more, that is, attack the other person? Can I do this? What if this person does not hit me and my family, but hits me and my friends? Yes. I do things based on these 7 points. I will protect myself and my friends. But now all of our lives are seriously threatened. Can I attack someone to protect myself and my friends? Well, now this person is hitting me and someone I do not know. I also use these 7 things as protective measures to protect myself. But our lives are all threatened and there are many people. In such a situation, can I protect people I do not know? That is, if on my way I see anything unfair, my sword is there to be drawn out. It also includes myself. Can I attack the other party? Okay. Now the other party is using a large number of very lethal weapons to attack me and a large number of people, which will cause a large number of casualties. Yes, I will use these 7 things to protect these large numbers of sentient beings, because I have compassion. Now there are many lives involved. Can I attack the other party? If I attack him, I can save many people. If I kill one person, I can save so many people. Let's have a look. In episodes 20 to 38 of our Compassion series, have we not talked about many cases where the Buddha still received the 10 kinds of retribution after he became a Buddha? One of the cases is that the Buddha was stabbed in the foot with a wooden spear. We have already talked about this case from the 6th chapter of the Sutra of the Buddha, speaking of the cause and effect of the foot stabbed by the wooden spear.
Derived from the upper volume of the Great Chronicle of Buddhas.
You can refer to episode 24 and 25 of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhisattva series, available from Dudjom Buddhist Association TV channel on YouTube. This case tells the story of the Buddha's previous life as the captain of a business group to save 500 of his crew members. He regarded these 500 crew members as relatives, both friends and relatives. They had not known each other before, but now they knew each other well. There were 500 of them, which was a large number of sentient beings, right? In order to protect them, he involved the 5 issues mentioned earlier. I have to protect myself, my family, my friends, and those I don't know. There were 500 of people, which is a large number. All included. In order to prevent another business group from snatching the ship and kill the 500 crew members, so he stabbed the foot of the captain of the other group with a spear and killed him. He killed one person, but saved 500 people on the ship, including his relatives. In this way, does he need to be retributed? Is it enough to be stabbed in the foot? No. The result was countless thousands of years, in units of 1,000 years, and there were countless thousands of years, through suffering in hell and suffered in hell. In hell, for countless thousands of times, he was stabbed by very sharp objects. After leaving hell, for countless thousands of years he was animals and shot by people. After being animals, he became hungry ghosts. He was in the realm of hungry ghosts for thousands of years, forced to climb trees with sharp iron awls attached and stabbed when he climbed up. Now he became a Buddha. After becoming a Buddha, he obtained the body of the Tathagata Vajra. However, there was a residual disaster. The result was that the Buddha was stabbed by a wooden spear and was so painful that he fainted. It was extremely miserable. Think about it. He still had the retribution after becoming a Buddha. He had suffered so much before, but it was not enough. The remaining part was still so serious. I only killed one person, which saved many people. I killed him out of compassion. Why should I suffer so much? His suffering in hell is called the formal karmic retribution. After he became a Buddha, he still had to be stabbed in the foot, causing pain to the point of fainting. This is called the residual disaster, which is the remaining part. He attacked and killed enemies in order to avoid massive casualties, to save his friends, and out of emotions. In the end, he did not avoid evil retribution because of the good cause of saving people. In other words, Buddha Shakyamuni is now teaching you sincerely, if someone hits me, I will not fight back. Do you think that it is consistent with the principle of cause and effect? Is this a truth that can save you? Yes, it is. It is. Regardless of whether you are saving yourself, many people, or your family, as long as you fight back, as long as you hurt the other person, there will be endless pain. Including all your relatives who must bear these pains. They will be implicated, not just you. So, do not harm yourself and others. Saving people turns into harming others, and your relatives will be implicated. Do you understand? This was before he became a Buddha. Before he became a Buddha, he did not understand it. He did not understand this principle, so he killed people to save others. He only killed one person. Okay, now let's look at what happened after he became a Buddha.
In the 3rd chapter of the Sutra of the Buddha, speaking of the causes of headaches, namely the upper volume of the Great Chronicle of Buddhas. also known as the Sutra of the Cause and Condition of the Stern Admonition, in another case called King Virudaka Destroyed the Shakyamuni Clan.
The story is described in Chapter 26 of the Ekatara Agama Sutra, Chapter 21 of the Mahasasaka Vinaya, Chapter 41 of the Dhammaguptaka Vinaya. The Buddha speaks of King Virudaka Sutra and the Arthavajja Sutra. The family of Buddha Shakyamuni was destroyed. This happened after he became a Buddha. When King Virudaka sent troops to attack the motherland of Buddha Shakyamuni, Buddha Shakyamuni only used his wisdom and sat on the main roads that the army must pass through to dissuade him. He did not use supernatural powers, call his disciples or believers, and he did not find high-ranking disciples of the king to help him. None of them was called to help resist or attack King Virudaka. He also did not make use of any protective measure. Were there no protective measures?
Master, after Buddha Shakyamuni became a Buddha,
He did not even make use of any protective measure, but you are teaching me to have protective measures. Did this not violate the precepts? This did not violate the precepts. Buddha Shakyamuni really had no protective measures. Why? Because his disciple, the one whose supernatural powers were second to none, said to the Buddha, "If you don't use the supernatural powers, let me." As a result, he used his supernatural powers to create a bowl, saved a group of people and put them into the bowl, and then used his supernatural powers to raise the bowl like a flying saucer. He thought that even if the attack of the enemy was successful, he had already saved hundreds of people. People could come back later. This country and the Sakya clan could be rebuilt. This was his thought. However, Buddha Shakyamuni said that it's useless. Karma isn't as simple as you think. The protective measures you took are useless. They will still be killed in the end. If you don't believe it, put the bowl down. When bowl flew down, all the people rescued inside were turned into blood and died automatically. Oh. Why is the destructive power of karma so powerful? Yes, it is so powerful. The power of resentment is extremely powerful. It is even more powerful than supernatural powers. That is why it is said that supernatural powers cannot be defeated by karma. The reason why Buddha Shakyamuni did not use his supernatural powers or make protective measures was because he knew that it would be in vain and useless. Master, why are you asking me to take protective measures? This is for compassion. I have to do my best. I cannot go to him to be killed. Did Buddha Shakyamuni go to King Virudaka, say that he also belonged to the Shakyamuni clan and ask him to kill him as well? Would he do that? No. He knew that King Virudaka was once his disciple following him to learn the Dharma and would not kill him. He in his heart knew all the past, future and the present. He knew that King Virudaka would not kill him. If he went over to block the army, King Virudaka would not kill him. If he would have taken protective measures. Why? If he walked over, he would implicate King Virudaka and the troops. If they killed the Buddha, they would definitely go to hell. They would never think about leaving hell. Buddha Shakyamuni would not get these people into trouble. He knew very well that King Virudaka had studied the Dharma and would not kill him. So, he sat in front of the army and blocked the army. Was this a protective measure? It was a measure to do his best to protect the motherland, and it also protected himself. In other words, he did take protective measures. It is not that he did not do it. You should not misinterpret this case. There were protective measures in place. So, I am now going to teach you to learn from Buddha Shakyamuni. Remember, take protective measures. Do not stand still to be hit by others. I guess, although it is not written in the sutra, that Buddha Shakyamuni did advise the Shakyamuni people. He had blocked it 3 times and could not withstand any longer. You should leave quickly. Escape. Use the Hinayana method and escape. However, the arrogant Sakya people did not agree to leave and would rather die than leaving their homeland. The result was death. So, remember, sometimes, even if you have taken protective measures, you might still be beaten. This is called doing your best. That is, you did not harm the other party, and you did not deliberately get hit by him to increase his bad karma. You have done your part well. As a result, most of the people from Buddha Shakyamuni's motherland and his relatives were killed. Some historians seem to suggest that several people were rescued, but it is difficult to say whether this is true. Some people say that they all died and no one survived, while others say that a few were rescued. This is not an important issue, so there is no need to argue. Let's now take a look at Buddha Shakyamuni before he became a Buddha. He made a big mistake, because he did not believe in cause and effect. Because he fought back and killed one person to save the entire ship. This was a big mistake. After becoming a Buddha, and because he deeply believed in cause and effect and thoroughly understand the operation of cause and effect, he only did his best and would not do anything by force. He felt that if he tried to stop the army for the fourth time, King Virudaka might lose his patience, and so would the army. And they would really kill the Buddha. If they killed the Buddha, they would be in big trouble. So, later Buddha Shakyamuni no longer used his physical body to stop the army. Here is the reason. Please do not harm people with your ignorance. With the Buddha's wisdom, he would not harm anyone, so he would not block it 100 times, but stopped after blocking it 3 times. Why? This is to respond to the situation and use awareness to deal with and solve problems. It's that simple. Therefore, you must remember that you only focus on doing your best, which is also the case with Buddha Shakyamuni. You should not focus on whether it must succeed. This is not abiding in anything. You should not abide in, you must succeed. To arouse the awareness, and arouse that intrinsic awareness, and do your best to help. Therefore, the first of the 4 dharmas of Sramana is that, when others hit me, I will not fight back. This is its real interpretation. The next lecture will continue to explain the other 3 of the 4 dharmas of Sramana. Okay, let's sum up today's session now. Faith means that we must have a deep belief in cause and effect and the faith in the Guru. This will develop the wisdom of equality. In our remembrance, we must never forget that all sentient beings are Buddhas and we must save them. This will develop the wisdom of equality. So, that afflictions are body mentioned earlier means that all sentient beings are Buddhas, right? We treat them equally, so that we can develop the wisdom of equality. This is called acceptance. You must accept this belief, otherwise you will not succeed in your Dharma practice. Diligence, we need to ask diligently, do we have greed, hatred, and ignorance emotionally? If you can successfully analyze, you will be able to develop the discriminating wisdom, which can stop the interference that hinders your awareness. If you do not continue to stir the beer bubbles will turn back to beer. This is called questioning. The wisdom means that you have to analyze, why is there greed, hatred, or ignorance? If you understand the reason, you can resolve it and you can develop the discriminating wisdom. This is analysis, which was taught earlier. The meditational concentration is a kind of stability and concentration. This is root seeking. If there is a case that can be used for detailed explanation in the future, I will explain it again. In this session, I want you to focus on the first 4 beliefs, how to apply them in daily life, and how to distinguish Hinayana, exoteric and esoteric Buddhist methods and mentalities. And what I want you to use to save yourself. Therefore, in order to focus on these 4 beliefs and not distract your attention, the examples in this session focus on using these 4 beliefs, the first to the 4th beliefs, are given so that you can learn how to apply them flexibly in daily life. Okay. Stated in the Sutra of the Garland of a Bodhisattva's primary karmas, cultivating the 10 beliefs for 1 to 3 kalpa can reach the level of initial residing, called Bodhisattva with initial resolute vows. Stated in the Humane King Sutra, walk the right path in 1,000 kalpa. However, because you are uncertain about your progress back and forth like a light hare wandering about, you will end up practicing the Dharma for 10,000 kalpa. In other words, just cultivating these 10 faiths will take so long. The treatise on the awakening of faith states clearly that you have to go through 10,000 kalpa to cultivate these 10 beliefs before you can achieve success. So, how can you become a Buddha? Through the current body in the present lifetime, according to the esoteric Buddhist teaching. It is in the details of what I just taught. I explained the framework before, but I did not talk about the details. Now I am teaching the details. Afflictions are body. What is the fastest way to cultivate the 10 beliefs? It is to apply the mind cultivating procedure, develop the 5 wisdoms and work with the oral pith instructions of the Diamond Sutra to develop these 5 kinds of wisdom.
It is also necessary to work with Diamond Sutra's oral pith instructions, not to abide in notions, and not to abide anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness.
The speed of success depends on the degree of application, which determines your speed, the speed of success. Mind cultivating procedure is concerned about the goals. Integrate the awareness with the 10 beliefs and train to develop the 5 wisdoms. The 10 beliefs are 10 kinds of awareness.
We need to learn how to improve our awareness to the point of not abiding in notions, and with this cultivating the 10 beliefs can be done very quickly.
Through not abiding anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness, we can work with the 10 beliefs, completely deal with all difficulties and shortcomings in mind and daily life. We must complete and accomplish the perfect enlightenment through not abiding anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness.
Not abiding in notions does not mean accepting and doing nothing.
It means to work with the 10 beliefs and doing it without attachment. Not abiding anywhere in order to arouse one's awareness is in fact accepting and facing it actively. It means to use the agile awareness and 10 beliefs to develop the wisdom and reflect on all actions. In other words, accepting means accepting all afflictions and problems, which will help you develop the wisdom of equality. Why? Because beer bubbles are beer. So, I accept all afflictions, which are just a derivative of my awareness, and I have a way to turn it back into awareness. Questioning, analyzing and root-seeking help you develop the discriminating wisdom. The treatment will help you develop the all-accomplishing wisdom.
If you successfully develop these 3 kinds of wisdom, and successfully resolve problems and correct shortcomings in the mind, and there is no abiding in notions, in conjunction with the first 3, the mirror-like wisdom can be developed. Then you lead it into emptiness, neither existence nor voidness, the state of oneness. Without abiding in notions, you can develop the Dharmadhatu wisdom.
If you work further with compassion and bodhicitta, you can then achieve the perfect enlightenment and become a Buddha. Okay, we will stop here today. The best thing for you to do is to watch episodes 20 to 38 of the Visualization Practice of Compassion and Bodhicitta series. Available from the TV channel of our Dudjom Buddhist Association, plus what I have talked about today.